What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Changeover podcast. If this is your first time to the channel, please give us a like and subscribe. It goes a long way to help us as we grow. Today's guest is Ethan Quinn. Ethan is a former Georgia Bulldog, NCAA champion, and is currently ranked around 330 on the ATP Tour. We had a fun episode with Ethan, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Changeover podcast. Today's guest is Ethan Quinn. Ethan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So Ethan and I practiced a little bit earlier on this week. So I spent a little bit of time getting to know you. I guess we can start with, I overheard you mentioning to one of the junior players at Everett Tennis Academy a little bit about your junior career, because he was asking about your junior career, and you were saying, humbly I guess, that you weren't the greatest player in juniors. Can you talk a little bit about how it was growing up in California and how your junior tennis career was?
Yeah, I mean, starting off, I didn't really have a great ranking in 12s and 14s. Being from Fresno, California, there's not much tennis. I mean, obviously, there's high school tennis and that type of stuff. But unfortunately now there's not even a Fresno State men's tennis team, so there's not even a Division I tennis team. And then honestly, a lot of the kids there, they're not very set on tennis. A lot of kids played baseball. A lot of my best friends, they were all baseball, football, basketball type of kids. So tennis just really hasn't gotten big enough in Fresno, which is funny. I mean, my coach, Brad Stein, is one of the greatest coaches on tour, on the ATP Tour. He's based out of Fresno. Sloane Stevens is out of Fresno. There's going back in the history books, Robert Kendrick, he's from Fresno, went 5 sets against Nadal. So there's definitely a history of great success in tennis in Fresno, but there just hasn't been the greatest outreach amongst the littler kids. And so growing up, I mean, I didn't really have many people to practice with. Fortunately, Brad had an academy for quite a few years. So when I was about 7 to 10 years old, he had an academy there. And I was able to watch some great college players like Cameron Klinger and Billy Griffith. But really, once I became 10, 11, 12, there wasn't really anyone to really look up to. Wasn't a great level of tennis, so my ranking kind of stayed around 120, 130 in the national rankings. And fortunately, Brad kind of made it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal. He made it, I was telling you, you probably overheard it, it's like 12s and 14s, there's not quite, most college coaches don't see the development when you're 12. I mean, obviously, if you're good at 12, you can see it, but I mean, you're not going to become anything great if you're 12. I mean, there's not a lot of, you can't win majors when you're 12, or you can't do anything like that when you're 12 years old. So he fortunately kind of gave me this vision that I need to start developing my game for college, like playing a college level game, getting a college level body, doing like lifting and that type of stuff. So that's kind of where my mindset was at from a young age, was just playing for when I become 16 or 18 years old. And fortunately, having that kind of mentality and that setup got it to the point where when I became 16, then I was able to kind of shoot, because I had this kind of good base, and then I was able to kind of put things together.
How difficult was it for you in those years? Because so we used to train, Justin and myself and Evan as well, used to train in Texas with Taylor Dent, and that was kind of the way that he would like teach us, even though we were already pros, and now I'm assuming that's how he's coaching his son, with the vision that you're not playing for under 10s, under 12s, under 14s, you're playing for later on. So how challenging was it for you to understand that the results now don't really matter and that you're working towards something different? And did that ever get discouraging for you as a 12-year-old?
Extremely discouraging. I mean, when you're 12 years old, you don't really understand that bigger picture. And so when I was missing birthday parties and class trips, because I was in normal school, I was missing all these events, and I was just like, I couldn't quite understand it. I was traveling every single weekend to play these tournaments and wasn't getting the results that I really wanted, but I was sacrificing all these things that maybe a 12-year-old would want, you know, and that was really, really hard for me to understand. I remember even when I was in 8th grade, so I guess that's 13, 14. I remember going to this tournament. It was our 8th grade trip. Like, we went to Disneyland or Magic Mountain, something like that. That's where we were supposed to go. And me and my mom went to this like level 2 national, and I lost first round. And then I was playing Constellation on like the Monday, and I won the first set 6-0 and ended up losing the match. And, you know, it haunts me that I can still remember this, but I remember just like going ballistic on my mom, just like, Mom, why are we doing this? Like, this is outrageous. Like, I'm 14 years old and I'm sacrificing like all this stuff. Like I want to do this, I want to do that, and go be with friends. And she was just like, all right, we're done. We stopped. And it took me about like 4 days to be like, Mom, can I please go play tennis again? Like I need to go play tennis. So that kind of was like, it opened my eyes. It was like, all right, tennis is, I've sacrificed a lot, but now that I have sacrificed, I'm like, all right, I want that, what I've been dreaming of. Like I want that. So like I want to go back into it. I can sacrifice more, however much I want, about all these birthday parties and whatever, that all that irrelevant stuff.
So then as you got, again, like if I overheard from the conversation, I was listening like that intently, but I overheard you say you had a vast like improvement around 16, 17. So then you starting to go into the college portal, I guess, looking at schools. So why did you decide to go to Georgia, and how difficult was it of a choice to go to Georgia versus any of the other schools?
You know, it was a really difficult decision at the time. You know, it's probably second hardest decision I've made in my life. The first being the decision to go pro after winning NCAAs. You know, that decision to go to Georgia, I had 4 schools that I was really looking at. It was USC in Southern California, Florida, Texas, and Georgia. And every single visit I went on, I was kind of just looking for that home feeling. And each visit I went on, I just kept getting closer to that feeling. You know, USC, even though it's in California, like I just didn't feel like that was the place for me. I loved the guys. I loved my visit. I loved the coaches at every single school I was at. But once I got to Georgia, there was this feeling of home that it was hard to kind of explain. You know, I did a pros and cons list based off of like academics or like whatever it might be.
You actually
like,
wrote it down? You
actually wrote it down. I had this, like, my mom gave me like a legal sheet, and I was writing it down, and like Florida or Texas, like they were, I can't remember exactly which one was one, but they had like a ton of ones, and Georgia had a lot of 3s and 4s. But the one that was the most important to me was that home feeling. Like I felt like I would be able to develop and become this player that I wanted to be once I got there. And I felt like that was more important than whatever scholarship or whatever degree I might get. I felt like that feeling of being at home you couldn't compare that to anywhere else.
And when you first got there, you did a redshirt semester, right?
I did.
Why did you choose to do that?
So it was a last second decision. It was like late December of my senior in high school. And I was at Orange Bowl, and I was up like 5-1 in the third set and had ended up losing the match, and Jamie was watching it. And the next day, me and my mom had kind of discussed that night. We're just like, all right, like, I think you need to go. Like I didn't have what I needed in Fresno. I just didn't have the training. I didn't have the players to compete with. So I wasn't match tough, as my mom would always say when I was younger. I just didn't have the facilities that I needed to become what I wanted to. And so the next day I was still in doubles. So I was like, Jamie, like, can I come to school next month? Like I was at school in 2 weeks after that. So I was like, Jamie, can I be there? And he was just like, yeah, like that's his personality. He's the most energetic and most enthusiastic person out there. And so he was like, of course, like we want to make this happen. Like, how are we going to do it? And so my mom handled everything with academics and stuff like that. My counselor from high school and my counselor from college were able to find this, not loophole, but way for me to do dual enrollment at UGA, so I could redshirt, get my high school diploma, and then still be able to be at school.
Okay.
And so the decision kind of came with I wasn't ready. Like I didn't feel like I was ready to compete at the college level. Even though I'd been preparing so much for it, I didn't feel like I was ready, just maybe mentally and possibly physically. I mean, you're looking at Tristan McCormick, who's first day he's deadlifting 400 pounds. I'm like, I can't do that. Like there's no way I can compete against that. And so that was kind of the decision. I wasn't ready, and I was hoping to maybe continue to play some junior tournaments, to play the French Open juniors another year. And so I was just like, all right, well, let's get there for the training and that type of stuff, and kind of get ready for when I start to play.
So you were able to play tournaments in that time?
Exactly.
So just like as an academy, basically, for you?
Essentially, yeah. Essentially, it was an academy with a very, very good academy with high-level players, and 10 of them. So
and then you have your first year at Georgia. So is there any point throughout that season, your freshman season, you anticipated that you would have done so well?
No, not at all. You know, the 2 months, I was playing futures. I was in 15Ks, and I was using like these junior exempts that I had from my ITF ranking, and I was playing them, and I was getting chopped. And like I was in Naples. I went to Weston. I played Oliver Crawford, and he just chopped me on the clay. And I remember every single time I'd be in the airport, and Jamie would call me. He'd be like, "So like, tell me about the match." And I'd be like, "Jamie, I'm just not cut out for this. Like, I can't do this. Like, I don't think I can't play futures. Like, I'm not good enough for futures. Like, what am I doing?" And every single time he's like, "All right, like, we'll get to work on Monday." And that was the thing, I think, that kind of got me to the point where I was finally starting to be successful. Was just like, even when I was struggling and wasn't doing well, it was like the attitude of, all right, tomorrow, like, let's get to work. Like, we're going to put some work in, and we're going to make you feel a lot more confident for that next tournament. And I think just over time it built up, and then finally in Bakersfield, I had to go through qualies rather than get that like main draw. And there's just that certain feeling, like when you qualify into a tournament, you have a few extra matches under your belt, like understand the conditions. And then I made semis of this 25K, and
that's normally a strong 25. I feel like
very strong. My first round, I played a guy ranked, I think, 500, which at the time when you're unranked and you play someone 500, you're like, oh my gosh, like that's unbelievable. So it was just a crazy feeling, you know, to kind of go through this wave of, man, I don't think I'm ready for this. I don't think I'm cut out, to then send me a 25K right away. Yeah.
Hey guys, quick break. Justin here from the Changeover. Gonna talk about Pro Stringer. It's a great machine that I use, Jody uses, and a lot of other pros use as well. You can use it at home, on the road, really anywhere there's a tabletop surface. It takes me about 25-30 minutes to string a racket on this machine. It is easy to travel with, fits in carry-on, suitcase, tennis bag, no issues at TSA. It's a big money saver, and you can save even more when you use our code Changeover to get $100 off the machine. Back to the episode. What interests me, it sounds like when you were very young, you said you weren't very good, and then from 16 to 18, I guess you saw a lot of improvement.
Yeah.
And then I guess you go to school, you don't feel like you're very good.
Yeah.
And then that next year, you do very, very well. I think a lot of people sometimes struggle with, let's say, like an imposter syndrome. Like maybe they aren't that good, then they work really hard and they get this level, but there's like a mental, emotional thing stopping them from achieving.
Exactly.
What allows you to, I guess, I don't know, do the hard work, and then you go to matches after you've not done well, you start doing well. What allows you to, I guess, ride that wave? Like, what about your mental preparation for those kind of scenarios lets you succeed in that?
You know, I think it's just the fact that it's happened multiple times now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not doing great to then being successful to then going back to not doing great. You know, it's like I take this last year, for example. I mean, I started off my college season 9-0 in the fall, and then I lost 10 matches in a month. And it's just like, you went from this super high. I was expecting I wasn't going to lose a match. I was expecting I was just going to blow through all of college tennis. And then I just got this like real life situation where it's like, all right, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think just understanding the waves and how it goes kind of gave me the mentality. It's like, all right, I just gotta ride this wave. You know, I've talked about this before. I think is like, if you look at a heart monitor, there's up, like the heart monitor goes up and down, and it's never right here. So mm-hmm. you got to just ride the waves, because if it's right here, you're dead. If it's flatline, you're gone. Mm-hmm. And so if you just have to experience those highs and lows, because without them, then you're just not gonna do anything. Yeah. You're gonna die and become irrelevant.
It sounds like with Jamie, he did a good job of like almost not making you focus on that one single result. You kind of zoom out, and then, I mean, maybe without you really realizing it, he was like making a process for you. You know what I mean?
Sounds like similar with your childhood coach, Brad, I guess, too. Like they don't let you get stuck in the result of it all. Like, we're going to keep going.
Exactly.
Like maybe that relaxes you, or maybe that gives you some trust there too.
For sure. Just realizing that there's a much bigger picture than what's right now, you know?
Does that help you or settle you down in any matches? Like, I only met you recently. I don't even remember where it was that I met you, but I saw on your Instagram you had a post about NCAAs and about the match points that you saved in the finals of NCAAs. So it sounded like you trusted and you backed yourself in that moment. So in a moment like that, like, what goes through your mind in match points down in the finals of NCAAs or any other match that's similar to that?
Yeah, I mean, in my career, I guess you'd say, I mean, when I won my first 25K, it was the same, or first 15K, I saved 4 or 5 match points against August Holmgren, and that was when he was ranked 2 in college. And it was kind of just like, my game is a very big game, and I have to really trust it, even when I'm not feeling the ball well. I kind of just play with this belief in myself that I'll figure it out, and that I'll, like, play big. Like, if you play big, big things will happen. My mom always said, go big or go home. And so that's kind of the mentality that I've always had, is just like, even when I'm down, you have to play your identity. If you go away from your identity and you play not to lose, then you're going to lose. You know, I mean, 4 match points down, 2 or 3 of them, I won the point. I didn't lose the point in NCAAs. I had to actually earn it. And I think that is what's able to get me through those types of matches, is just staying true to myself rather than trying to get away from my identity. And that's something so far this year that the first 2 tournaments I played, I struggled with. I was kind of away from my identity, and my coaches kind of told me that. They're like, all right, we got to get back into this identity. So this week of training has just been all about figuring out who my identity was. You saw we did a ton of backhand crosses. Just everything was dictated. It was like me trying to hit backhand crosses, nothing with bailing out line. And so that's kind of what is just staying true to that identity in order to succeed, and rather than departing from that idea.
So you'd rather feel free playing that way with your identity than trying to adjust and losing a match a different kind of way.
Exactly. Since I've been younger, it's always been a lot of like, my best is better than their best. So say someone has an outrageously good backhand, I'm going to trust that my inside-out forehand is better than their backhand every single day of the week. And if I'm able to consistently have that mentality, then I'm able to get through those tough matches, even when they hit a screamer backhand down the line and it's just like a little rattling. But I'm able to go back to my identity and be like, all right, do that again. Like, I trust that my identity is going to work out for me, rather than them having to come up with these exceptional shots.
So you just live and die with your patterns, and it's like you don't really care who's on the other side of the court. It's just you're gonna play your game.
Yeah, yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you have to kind of realize what guys are doing, and you kind of have to adjust a little bit. But for the most part, it's just been a lot, at least the early part of this year and even the end of last year when I started doing well, was just staying true to that identity and just not letting myself overthink about what they're doing, and just staying all right, I know what I want to do. Let me put my pressure and impact them in a way where they're going to try and adjust what they're doing.
Go ahead.
I was curious. So going into the NCAA tournament is obviously a very big deal, especially for an American. Does going into that final, do you approach that match any differently than other matches? How do you see that match before you go on the court?
You know, I didn't really see it in a different way. I was kind of in this weird sense of mind. Like, I was just like so locked in on myself that I wasn't trying to think of anything too big. Like, obviously I saw a lot of the USTA coaches out there, and when you see them, you get a little tight. I mean, especially you start to think of the moment. But I mean, that match was such a roller coaster. I didn't really give myself time to even during the match think about it, and then even after the match. I mean before the match, the other matches I had leading up to it were just so physically exhausting. I was playing a bunch of big servers. I was having to go 3 sets basically every single match, and so I really didn't even give myself a chance to think about, all right, what's on the line. Like, I was just like so focused on, all right, let me do my recovery, let me eat well, let me handle the controllables as well as I can. And then after the match, I finally was like, oh my gosh, like this, I'm gonna be at the US Open like in 3 months. Like, I really didn't let myself put so much pressure on this match, because if I did, then I don't know, maybe I would have cramped in that 3rd set after a tough 7-6 first 2 sets, you know?
The pressure must be so different for an American compared to like another international player that
I think
they don't have the US Open on the line, you know?
For sure. I mean, I feel for Andre. I mean, that's a tough spot to be in. I mean, it's just like, if he wins it, he doesn't really get that same feeling that I got when I won it. You know, it's like you could see in that 3rd set after he had lost lost that second set, you could kind of just, even when you watch the stream, it's like just had this dip in energy, just extreme dip, which obviously if you get 4 match points on you, or you have 4 match points and you don't hold your serve, it's tough feeling. But when now it's like, all right, now I'm playing for nothing, and it's like, well, kind of just, he went away a little bit, unfortunately. I mean, fortunately for me, but.
So, and then, what was the US Open experience like? So after coming through, like, playing such a stressful week, and now you're at the US Open, what was that week like?
It was crazy. You know, I had a great week of training in the Hamptons the week before. But honestly, like the weeks leading up to it, the tournaments before, I hadn't won a match in, I don't even know, maybe eight weeks or something like that. Okay. And so leading up to the Open, you know, you're on the biggest stage of tennis. Like, I was just like, I was hoping I was going to get some sort of draw where I was like, all right, perfect. I can like totally win that. I don't have to earn it. Like, maybe this guy will give it to me. But it's like, I don't know what I was thinking. There's no guys that are inside the top 100 that are going to give you a match, especially at that level. And, you know, it was weird. Like, I got on court and I was wanting to compete like so much that I actually like got myself like tight. Like I started to cramp a little bit because I was just like so amped up for this match. I was like so ready. I remember texting Brad. I was like, Brad, do I the night before I was like, do I wake up at 2:00 and just start chugging water? Like, what do I do? Because I didn't want to cramp so bad. I wanted to make sure I finished the match because all these people had flown from Fresno to come see me, and I was just like, I have to finish the match. I have to, like, I just put so much pressure on the match that I didn't even let myself like play. Like, I didn't let myself like be loose. Like I was just saying, like I didn't get to play to my identity because I was just like so nervous about finishing the match and like what he was going to do. And so I just kind of psyched myself out, which I don't know if that's what guys do for their first slam or if it was just me, but yeah, I just was.
It must have been a little bit challenging because if it's someone who like work their way up to the ranking to get into qualies, then maybe they feel a little bit more of a sense of belonging.
For sure.
Not that you didn't belong, because obviously you won NCAA, so you deserve to be there. Yeah. But you know, I guess maybe there's some added pressure that if you don't do well, then who knows when the next slam that you'll be able to play versus someone who's in the 200s or 100s, they can play another slam in the next couple of months. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. If you're inside 200, you know, like, all right, in 2 months I'm gonna get another slam. Or if it's like, all right, we got French, Wimbledon, it's like back to back to back stuff like that. Yeah, it was definitely a stressful
situation. It's interesting
situation.
to me how, like, I don't know, you have this college season and you're talking about how match to match in the NCAA tournament you were so locked in, and then what is it? How many months later is US Open? 3 months?
3 months, 4 months.
You're in such a different mental headspace that all that confidence you had seems almost like you started over because you lost however many weeks in a row.
Exactly.
So it's like tennis and the mental state is it's so fickle. Like, you have to be, I guess, married to something different if you're gonna, I guess, in the long term do well, because I feel like there are gonna be these ebbs and flows. So how do you, I don't know, so like you go from all of that and now you've turned pro. How was that decision like? What made you choose to go pro after one year?
You know, so Brad, he had called me. I remember I was in Wichita for the 25K there, and I want to say I was in like the semis of the tournament there. And he called me. He's just like, "Hey, I just came back from the French Open. I've been with Tommy's agent, and like he thinks that your like market value would be about this much." And that was part of like my thought process was like, all right, like I can make good amount of money here with just like my name and image. And then he was just like, and then secondly, like he's like, Alex Mickelson, he's going pro. He's already ranked this number. I can't remember what he was at the time. He's like, he's going pro. He's not going to be there. So he's just like, you've already done as much as you can. You won SECs. You won your individual for singles. And realistically, he's like, I don't think that the Georgia team is good enough to win a national title next year, even if you're on the team. He's like, I think for your personal development, I think it'll be best for you if you move to Boca and you get to train with Tommy and you get to be with all these other professional tennis players. He's like, I think that will be the best route for you if you want to become this. He's like, he kind of left the choice for me. He's like, if you want to become a professional tennis player, you need to go to Boca. But if you want to not stay immature, but if you want to kind of give yourself another year, I'm perfectly fine if you go back to Georgia. It's just I think that if you do this, you're going to be in a lot better position than if you went to Georgia and waited another year and say you didn't win NCAAs the second year. It's like then your market value drops. You're not going to make as much money if you do go pro the next year. And he's just like, I think this is best for you. And I think having that kind of guidance made the decision a lot easier. You know, I'd been kind of thinking about it after NCAAs. I was like, oh, maybe not. And if it was just me, I probably would have gone back to school because it was comfortable.
How do you say no when someone presents it to you like that?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. It's almost impossible to say no. And when you're like, if it was just me, I would have been like, oh, I'm comfortable here. I'm still like, I'm 19. Like I shouldn't be out on tour. Like I should be still getting better. I should enjoy college. You know, that's what a lot of people say is like, oh, go to enjoy college. And it's like, looking back, if you're an athlete, like at Georgia, I was doing so much for my tennis that I wasn't even being a college student. Like I was so focused on working out and recovering and practicing and doing all this stuff that I wasn't going out. I wasn't doing all that type of stuff. And I was just so focused on doing that. It's like, all right, now I get to be a professional. I don't have to take classes. Why would I go take classes when I could do exactly what I'm doing right now in a new place?
Okay. So how much did he help with the setup? Like, I guess, how much did you have to organize, like, who your coaches would be and what your training would be and these kind of things?
A lot of the training side of it, Brad had orchestrated. You know, I mean, Franco, he's a strength and conditioning coach at Everett, and he's incredible. He works with Tommy and a lot of the other pros that are in Boca.
For not to say, we should invite him on too, because
Yes.
we have the whole crew coming.
Exactly, literally. So he works with Renato, he works with Kova, he works with Tommy, me, Rybo, like a lot of high level players. And so he's just like, this will be your strength and conditioning coach. Then he has Sebastian, which is Tommy's physio. And he's just like, all right, when you're in Boca and Seba's there, like he can be your physio. And he basically had set up all these things. And when I was at the Open for qualies the year before, I was fortunate. I got to like start with them. Like I got to build that relationship. So they already knew me, and they're just like, yeah, like we're happy to bring on another guy, like part of the family.
Yeah.
And so he had kind of handled all that, and then the coaching side of it, he'd kind of left that up to me. He had obviously given me names of people he recommended, and so I started off the summer with Nick Papik, who he's from Fresno. He played at Oklahoma, finaled for them like 2 years when they made the finals for a few years in a row. Started with him, and then he has a young kid, so he's just like, I don't think I can do the traveling that you want to do. So I went to the USTA, and the USTA had helped me out for quite a few weeks. And then after the Open, I had made the decision. I was just like Brian was in Boca. I'd known Brian Garber for a little bit. Before that, he had worked with Mitch. I'd met him like the year before. But then Brian had an opening, and I was like, hey, Brad kind of set that up a little bit more.
Okay.
It was like, I think it'll be a good fit with you guys. And starting from the first week, it was a phenomenal fit. Just really started building that identity.
So your team is kind of, I guess, what's Brad's role in your team?
I mean, Brad's the king is what we kind of call him.
Okay.
It's Brad's the king, and he kind of orchestrates everything for me and Tommy. And then there's also a few guys that he helps out with that kind of surround themselves with us as well. But yeah, Brad's the king, and he kind of manages it all. He's the king.
So what was the adjustment like for you to the pro lifestyle, like training, fitness, rehab, physio, compared to how it was at Georgia? How different of a life is it now?
You know, I didn't feel like it was that drastic of a change. Like I felt like I'd already been doing everything that I'm doing now. I feel like I'd been doing in college. Fortunately, I kind of set myself up for success in that way. Like I wasn't creating this dramatic change. It was just a different location with maybe slightly different people. I stay in contact with my trainers and physios from UGA, and so I kind of like I'm always in contact with them. But for the most part, there wasn't really a change with that. I think the hardest change was having to pay for everything myself. Like at Georgia, the coach, I mean, Manny has an outrageous budget. I mean, he's been there for 37 years, so he's been able to build this budget for the tennis team where stringing, food, everything like that is, you don't even think about it. All we do is we eat at these nice places and we say, thank you, MD. And so it was just a lot different going on tour. It's like, I mean, you guys understand you're having to manage your budget and that type of stuff. And so when I started, I was making, like, I wasn't eating the proper way. And when I was at school, I was eating, I don't know, two Chipotle bowls.
So what were you eating when you first started?
I was having just like just an entree at whatever place I was at, where when I was at college, I was used to having like 2 Chipotle bowls, some chips, guac, all this stuff, maybe going out for dessert after too, because it was like all on Manny's card. And so it was just a different lifestyle. And then I really realized that when I came back to Boca and I had lost like 8 pounds, I was like, what? Like, why am I losing all this weight? And Franco was like, dude, you're not eating. You're not having any protein. Like, and so once he kind of told me that, I was like, all right, I got to have protein with me at all times when I'm traveling. I got to make sure I'm having like 2 dinners, possibly even like maybe 2 lunches, whatever it is, depending on the match. So once I kind of realized that, I was able to kind of start building muscle and building that endurance that I needed to be on court.
So you focus, sorry, bro.
No, go finish.
You focus on that stuff now too, like during the week, like that's consciously on your mind, like how much you have to eat and this sort of stuff.
100%. I mean, even like this week training, coming back from Portugal where I was a little bit sick, I had lost a few pounds, and like last night I had 3 steaks for dinner. That's crazy. And like I was still hungry. Like it was like outrageous the amount of food. I don't know if that's like outrageous or if I'm just like extremely hungry.
But I don't know. This week was like Tuesday, dying. I warmed up with him, rallying down the middle, and Brian was like, "You guys want a drink?" It's like, yeah. Drink, quick.
Yeah, it was hot that day. I was not prepared for that coming from.
Well, he was dying.
No, I was dying.
Oh.
I mean, it was hot too. I was
stars.
hot.
I was seeing stars, but I was literally like warmed up properly, like ready to go. You know them warm-ups where you're already like
got a little
like
sweat in the
good.
brow.
You're sweating already when you start. You know, like I'm ready. Like good.
Yeah.
Start hitting down the middle after like 2 rallies. I'm like, dog, I'm dying. I don't know what is going on. Like, but then I obviously don't want to show him and Brian that I'm like struggling, you know. So I'm like just hitting. And Brian's like, "You guys want a drink?" And I'm kind of waiting for him to say yeah.
I was like, yeah. I was feeling it too. Don't worry.
As soon as he said yeah, drink, I'm drink quick.
What I'm curious about is you were talking about market value when you were going pro. So obviously you have a great story, like going to Georgia, Rookie of the Year, national champ. And I remember when we were at the dents, Taylor always used to say, like, the better you get, the more advice you get from all over. So that there's more input from outside. You have, I guess, in sponsors, agents, you have probably coaches. USTA probably wants to have some input. How are you dealing with all of that, all of those outside forces, all the input? And how are you dealing with it? And what are you focusing on so that you can keep it about the tennis and the improvement?
Yeah, fortunately, I've kind of surrounded myself around people that help me with those decisions. Mm. So when I am confronted by those ideas, I'm able to kind of just like delegate it. Yeah. Like, hey, Brad, what do you think on this? And he gives me his answer, and he knows me so well, so he kind of knows like how I think. So I'm able to kind of ask him, and he's able to give me advice, and I trust his advice 100%. Yeah. So I'm able to quickly just pass it, like give the response to whatever was coming. I think the hardest thing that I've been trying to manage is the hate. It's like when you lose a match, obviously you guys know
the Instagram DM blows up.
Instagram, I'm getting 100 messages, and they're like, "Oh, you stupid kid! Like you shouldn't be pro. You should go back to college." Like all that stuff. And obviously, when I was first starting, like, and I'd lost 9 matches in a row, and you're seeing all that stuff, like hundreds of messages, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, did I just like make the worst mistake? Like, did I just ruin my life? Like all this stuff. And so I think that was the hardest part. And fortunately, my girlfriend, I gave her my password to Instagram. I was like, can you, like, if I lose a match, like, please log in before me and delete it all. And I think that's been so nice for me.
That's big trust right there, boy. Giving his girlfriend the password.
lot of trust. And yeah, so she's been great for me just on that aspect, just making sure all that stuff is out of my sight. It still happens now. Like not quite as bad. Now it's more of a just like, oh, you should. I don't even want to. Whatever. Yeah. You guys know. But that for sure has been the hardest part. I mean, and it's just part of tennis. I mean, it's part of pro tennis. You're always gonna get it, and that's never gonna go away.
Yeah. Do you have Twitter?
I do have Twitter, but I'm not really strong on it, so I don't really get too much on Twitter.
Man, recently through the podcast, our Twitter is doing horribly, but we have a Twitter, and I haven't been on Twitter since I was young. But now we have Twitter. Every now and again, I'll go on, and that's all I see. Just people, like, it's more like hate than it is actual, like...
It's all Twitter. It's
like, Twitter's just all, like, tennis drama and, like, tennis hate, and people, like, complaining. It's crazy. It's like...
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Twitter. I use it more for just, like, following the transfer portal for football for Georgia.
Okay.
That's funny. No, there is some news. Like, there is lots of news, like, especially with me. Obviously, I'm not playing at those big tournaments, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it is cool to see, like, and hear some of the stories and perspectives of that. Like, that's a good source of news there. But then it's also mixed in with so much other stuff.
Yeah,
like,
so much nonsense.
Because at the end of the day, it's just a lot of fans that are very passionate and this other stuff, and it could get dark, you know.
For sure. Super dark.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't really get that many hate messages anymore on Instagram. So I'm lucky.
You're going to start playing again soon, man. You've been on off-season for the last month and a half.
No, but even last year, like, I used to get them a lot, but even last year, like, I guess, I don't know, my singles results haven't been good, so people don't bet on me no more. I don't know.
But you're winning doubles matches too, so maybe that's...
But I feel like they don't bet that much on doubles.
No?
I don't think so.
Doubles isn't... I haven't seen
nothing.
or received much from doubles.
Yeah. Come on over to my side. It's a lot more comfortable with less hate. What about expectations? Is it hard for you to manage expectations? Like, after that, like, the NCAA run, and then even, like, recently, like, at the end of last year, because we talked a little bit about, like, in training, how well you did towards the end of last year on the Pro Tour. So is it hard for you to manage the expectations? And because we talked about, like, riding the wave and that sort of stuff, but how is it for you after you've done so well for a certain amount of time? Now you have a preseason block, and, like, how is it for you to manage these expectations?
It's challenging. You know, when I first went pro, it's like, if you look at me and Ben Shelton's trajectory, at least until NCAAs, it was very similar. It was a lot of the times where Ben would win a tournament, I would win a tournament. And so I kind of had this, like, delusional expectation that I was going to turn pro and I was going to do what Ben did. I was going to, like, final all these challengers right away. I was going to second round in Atlanta, whatever. I was going to go 5 sets at the Open. I was going to get the Australian Open Wildcard in those 3 challengers at the end of the year. And so I kind of was just, like, in this la-la land type of living. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to do all these things. And then it wasn't happening. And I started to, like, just get so overwhelmed. I was just like, oh, like, I was expecting to do what Ben did. And then I kind of realized, I'm like, that was just, like, such an outlier. Like, you look at Ben's results and it's like, gosh, like, how did he do that? And yet I had to realize that I was like, that's an outlier. Like, I'm also not an outlier. Like, I just have to realize that my path is a little bit different. And then even starting this year, it's just like, I was in Portugal and I was hoping to be in Australia. That was kind of what my goal was. When I went pro, as I wrote it down, I was like, I kind of want to be in Australia to start the year, at the beginning of this year. And I wasn't there. And there's a lot of guys kind of closer to my age. Like, if you look at, like, Alex or Jerry or, like, this Arthur Cazot, who's done outrageously good at the Australian Open. But a lot of guys that are closer to my age, I was like, oh, like, that's kind of like my group of guys that I was trying to follow. And I wasn't there, and I was in Portugal, and I wasn't doing well, and I was just kind of overwhelming myself, just thinking, like, why am I not there? Like, am I not good enough to be there? And so, I mean, definitely been a lot of challenges, but, I mean, I kind of have a good team, like I said, that's kind of been able to suppress those feelings and kind of make me realize that my path is just a little bit different, that whatever happens for a reason, and I can't really think that, oh, I'm not good enough. It's just my path is different, and maybe it'll take me a few extra years to get to that point, but I'll get to that point eventually, you know?
It's so interesting because for how competitive tennis is, it's hard for you to compare yourself to other people, you know?
Sure.
So, I mean, whereas, like, you ended last year really well, and you have a good opportunity because you don't really have that many points to defend. So it's a good opportunity for you in Portugal as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
But you were hoping to be in another place with a group of people that you thought that was on a similar trajectory as you. So in a way, you stopped yourself. I don't know if that impacted the performance or not, but
I think it maybe not while I was playing, but like the lead up to it and that type of stuff. Like, I was like a little bit resentful almost of going there rather than going to this other place, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. So we talked about your identity a little bit. There were some people on Instagram that were interested about your game style and that sort of stuff. So you said that when you were younger, this is what you at 14, 15, you were thinking of playing this kind of way. So was it ever in doubt, like this kind of game style? And did you have anyone kind of tell you or question that if this is the way you're supposed to be playing?
Not really. From a young age, I had power. Like, I had a lot of power. I just didn't have much control. And Brad's kind of philosophy around my game was, he's just like, it's a lot harder to create power and create that kind of aggressive game style than it is to create consistency. He's like, it's much easier for you to create this consistency than it is for me to try and teach you how to hit the ball big. So he kind of would go about practice as like, let it go, just let it loose, let it flow, and wouldn't really hold me back, maybe when I was younger. And then as I started to get a little bit older, then he started to kind of harp on just like managing my power. And that's been the thing that's been the most important throughout my development, is just managing that power. Because sometimes I kind of get a little bit, I don't feel like I'm hitting the ball huge. And then Brian on the side is like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're roping that ball. Like you don't need to go that big. And I'm like, I didn't think I was going that. Like, it just was natural. And so that's been kind of the thing that's been most important, is just managing the power, like continuing to go about the swing the way I do, but just doing it in a little bit more controlled mindset.
Okay.
One of the drills that Brad always would have us do is he's like, go as big as you can, but in. And he's just like, I don't care how hard you hit it.
It's just simple. I hit the ball,
but it has to go in. And so we would do this drill, and it, like, both guys were doing it. So you're just absolutely roping the ball to each other. But I mean, I think that drill is one that's been super, super good for me, because it helps me still lets me go after the ball, but I have to manage it because it has to go in the court.
What do you have to adjust? Is it maybe your balance? Is it the shape on the ball? Like, what are you changing to, I guess, control the ball better?
Probably the shape over the net.
Okay.
That's probably been the most important thing, just creating that heaviness. Sometimes I get a little bit too flat, a little too linear. So making sure I'm a little bit thinner on the ball so it dips a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just creating that acceleration where I'm still swinging as hard as I can at the ball, but just letting it drop at the end.
So when you're in a match and, I don't know, for whatever reason the forehand's off or it's spraying a little bit, that's what you're focusing on? Trying to get more bite on the ball?
A little bit more RPMs, yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
You have that issue?
Me? No. RPMs is not an issue for me. That is not a problem that I have at all. How do you set goals for yourself? Like, do you, like for this year, you have ranking goals set, and then are you setting also like performance things that you want to change, things in your game, or like what are you looking at with your coach at the beginning of the year or before the year starts? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the goals that I've written, I haven't really talked about it with my coaches. It's been a lot more of just through myself. It started in that December before I came to school in January. That's when I kind of started actually like writing down my goals, and like realistic ones. Actually, not even realistic. I mean, some of them were pretty outrageous, but I mean, I dreamed big enough, and a lot of them, like kind of going about this year, like for example, was being in slam qualies for the next 3 slams. And I feel like that's a very realistic goal to have. You know, I'm about, I don't know, maybe 120 spots, 130 spots out of being in qualies. And fortunately, I have nothing to defend, like you said.
That could change in 2 weeks. You could just
for the next 5
win 2 challenges and then you're good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very realistic goal, but it's still obviously it's difficult. I mean, trying to get 100 points isn't that easy. I mean, I don't even know how many points I have right now, but
how close were you for the Australian?
I think I was at 3.
Because you semied one, no?
I semied 2 at the end of the year, but I was still, I want to say about 120 spots out.
No, but like for the 3.
The wildcard.
I was in. I want to say if I had beat
must
Kipson,
have been like top 5.
If I had beat Kipson, I think I would have got it.
Oh,
if I
no
had
way.
beat him, yeah.
Was that on your mind or not really?
I think it was. I think it was a little bit too much on my mind. I was thinking a lot about being in Australia.
Oh,
and
really?
I was just, because I was even talking about it with like my mom, and she was just like, oh, like for Christmas I'll buy your brother trip, like a ticket to Australia to go with you. And I was just like, oh yeah, like that sounds great.
Yeah.
But I got to win this match, and then I didn't win the match. So that's how it goes.
It's tough.
Yeah.
How similar was that to the NCAA final for you? Like, did that cross your mind at all or no? It's probably the same thing, no?
I think it crossed my mind a little bit towards the end of the match. Like actually more so like when I was up 2-0 in the third set. I was like, oh, if I win this match, like, like I get to, like I'm gonna go to the Open, and then I got broken next game.
Semis?
For what? Sorry again.
You played him in the semis?
Who?
Gibson.
Oh, I didn't play. Oh, at the I played at Gibson in the semis, in Champaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what?
No, that's funny. It's like, I don't know. It sounds like not anytime, 'cause I don't know your whole life, but it sounds like the times that you were expecting things, they don't quite happen. But the times where you're just locked in and doing your thing, that's when you kind of flow through. So it's like, it's funny how you're going to try to find the balance of, let's say you're going to run right now and you start winning a bunch of matches, to somehow remain in that like hungry, locked in space, as opposed to like now like changing your mindset again and like start expecting more from yourself. Like, I don't know, like it's got to be very hard to do, because when you start winning, I guess now you have new goals.
Yeah, exactly.
And then your whole perspective changes. So it's like, just funny how you have to learn to balance like, I guess, expectations versus the process and all those thoughts that come with it. Like, it's not an easy, I guess, dance.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think one thing that probably would help me in those moments is just consistency. It's like maybe not consistency on the court, but just with the consistency off court. Mm-hmm. I feel like for me personally, like in the moments where I'm like struggling, I'm not doing well, I'm making sure I'm talking to like a sports psychologist, like I'm doing all this, like I'm doing extra working out, I'm doing extra mobility, that type of stuff. And then I start doing successful, and I'm like, oh, like I'm finally beyond that. Like I don't need the sports psychology. Like we've talked about it. Like I don't.
Now I get it.
We don't need to talk anymore. It's like I've got it. Like I understand. I understand what I need to do on court. And then 3 months go by, and it's like I've just been riding this wave on a high, and then I'm back down in this just back low. And I'm like, damn, like I need to go back to the sports psychology.
So the work,
it's like almost defeat. Like it's like defeat having to go back, but it's like after 2 sessions, then I talk to him, and it's like everything's great, and I'm feeling great, and I do well, and I'm like, oh, perfect. Like,
it's the work is the answer.
Exactly. It's the same cycle, and I just keep getting lost in the fact that I'm like, oh, I'm too good for that. But no, you just got to stay consistent on it.
Never stop. Yeah.
I feel like you don't lose that. Like, that's kind of one of the things I was thinking about a lot this off season. Like, I'm working on, whatever. I don't know, not to give too much away, but I'm working on things. But I'm kind of, I don't have the opinion that I'm just going to fix it and it's going to go away forever. Like, I'm kind of accepting it's always going to be there. It's always something that you have to manage. And as long as you're doing things the right way and you can live with this thing, like you have to acknowledge that it exists, whatever it is for you. Like, I know what it is for me, but it exists, and then I know how to take myself out of whatever is harming me at the present moment in time, and then move out of it, like what I was thinking about in my preseason is like every time I'm doing drills, like practice points, or if we're doing like practice sets and stuff, I'm trying to minimize like the dip. Like this thing comes at times, and I'm trying to, okay, I've realized it's here now, and then these are the things that I need to do to get out of this.
Accepting the baggage.
Yeah, and I even felt it in the session with you. Like we were doing, I don't know, maybe one of the cross-court backhand drills. I felt the dip start to come, and then I was aware of the things, the demons or whatever, and then I was like, okay, they're here now. These are the things that I need to do to get myself back to where I need to be, and I ended up finishing the practice like very, very well. That's, I feel like before in the past, this thing would be a set or a set and a half, and then now I've done it in a few practice sets where it's been 3 games. Now it's 2 games. And this is where I see the improvement in my game. Like I'm thinking of, this is not gonna be gone. It's never gonna be away. It's always gonna, because the second you think it's gone, it's gonna come back. And then you forget what you need to do.
If you neglect it,
So that's kind of what I was thinking about, and that's why it's also funny because last year I remember I was about to start play in California, the first 25 of the year. I remember feeling I'm not ready to play. Like the tournament was about to start. I just did preseason. I was like, I'm not ready to play, but I went and played anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And my perspective is completely different now. It's like, you're never going to be fully ready. Like, okay, I'm 100% ready today. I'm going to win this match. It's like, no, I have this. I prepared for this amount of time. This is where what we have with the preparation. And then, you know, like, you're going to go. Like, the ups and downs are going to come. You know, I don't know what parts of the up or down I am right now. We're going to find out next week.
The heartbeat monitor.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about. Sorry, that was a long rant.
No worries.
Let it out. This is therapy, dog. Get it.
I'm good now. No, can't you tell I'm in a good spot?
Don't shed a tear out here.
Yeah, I'm in a great spot. I'm on this spot. This spot of the heartbeat monitor.
Yeah,
Justin.
that's a good spot.
This spot right here.
That's a great spot.
Yeah. Should we get into some fan questions?
Do it.
All right, forgive me because I can't really see the TV. So this one is from Maxime. Oh, this isn't specifically for you, Ethan, but this is the question is, why do many tennis players blow on their fingertips? I don't think they do it to dry their sweaty fingers, and I don't think they're mimicking other players. Can you provide an explanation? And are there explanation? And are there coaches out there teaching their players to do this?
Is this for the room?
Yeah, it's for the room.
Maxime, I have no idea. I would assume that it's just some sort of routine, and it's just something that someone got used to doing, and they just do it. Because I don't think I do it. I never blown on my.
I think I've done it before.
Yeah.
I feel like it's because the palm gets hot. No?
I know. For me, like I do it because my fingers get like slightly wet or something like that. Like if say it brushes against like my short that's like super wet, I'm trying to like blow on it to get it off. Okay. But it's like if I wipe my shirt, then my whole hand's gonna get wet. So it's like if I blow, maybe it'll dry. I don't think it really works.
You gotta go to the towel.
Yeah, you have to
gotta go to the towel.
You have to go to the towel.
These days you have to run to the towel because you don't have
yeah, what if you can't get there in 25 seconds?
Yeah, I don't know what the science is there, but there are definitely no coaches telling anyone to do that. I've never heard a coach say anything to me about blowing on my fingers.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one either.
No.
I feel like I do, but I think it's because of heat, like the heat in the palm. But I don't know if that makes any difference either.
You're hitting the forehand too big or what? What you mean?
These days I'm hitting the forehand very big. So. Okay, this question is for Ethan. This is from Naresh. How do you train during college, and can you break down a day's training in the fall or the spring?
Yeah, so I remember in the fall was a lot different for me. I was traveling like so much. I remember my fall, I was gone like the first 3 weeks of the semester, which was a lot of the hard part of like conditioning. Like I remember I came back and all the guys were dying. They're just like, oh, it's Tuesday, we're running 400s. And I'd be like, oh, it's like my off day. Like it's like, I don't have to run. And I think they got a little annoyed with that. I mean, I would do my work, but I definitely was on a different schedule. So I can't really give a great idea of. I wasn't in the same rhythm as them. But for the spring, I know we were doing like every day we were practicing from 1:30 to 4:30-ish, like 4:35-ish. So pretty extensive practice, like 3.5 hours working singles, doubles. And then probably about 3 days a week, I was doing an individual for an hour. And then 3 days a week, I was doing some sort of lifting. And then every single day I was doing recovery, like maybe except Sundays. I mean, actually even Sundays, because in the season you're playing matches. Yeah. So Sunday, Fridays, I was making sure I was doing my recovery even more.
What's that look like, recovery for you?
Say again, sorry?
What's that look like, recovery? What does that mean to you when you say that?
At school, it was like I was doing ice baths every single day. Like, I mean, I felt like they were very productive doing that. I mean, mainly for the mental side of things, just the rush that you get getting in the cold water. But I think physically it also helps you. So, I mean, ice tank. I was doing, like, we had laser therapy. We had shockwave therapy, boots, rollout, stretching. Primarily mobility, though. Mobility was the number one thing that I was making sure I was trying to do, like, at least 30 minutes a day. Like, mobility is something I regret not doing when I was younger, because it's just, like, as you get older, your hips, I mean, my hips right now are pretty immobile. So I wish that they're definitely a little bit more. I mean, it just helps so much on so many different shots. It's like just getting the rotation on your serve, getting rotation on your backhand, being able to have your right foot in front, maybe a little bit cross, but you have the mobility to kind of just cross over. Like, there's so much advantage to being super mobile, and that's probably one thing I probably should be doing a lot more. I continue to do it, but
cool.
Got you. All right, next question is from Tyler. Who is the most underrated player you've played against in competition?
Jeez, that's a tough one. I don't even. My goodness. Do you guys know? What about you guys?
I didn't even think
Most
about this.
underrated player I've ever played
Underrated.
on the spot. That's tough to come up with.
Crazy to
That's
think
tough to
about.
come up
Yeah,
with.
I would have
crazy.
to look at it. I don't know why we didn't do any preparation for this part of the.
You had the questions for how long?
Huh? I've had this like 2 days, I think. But I wrote this. This has been there like 2 days now. But I don't
Most
remember.
underrated. Sorry, Naresh. I don't got nothing for you.
I know.
Oh, this is
I
Tyler.
don't know if this would count, but when I played Dino Prismic when he was like 15, and I beat him, and now he just went four sets with Novak first
Djokovic,
round.
yeah.
So I wouldn't say he was underrated at 15. He was already sponsored by Nike, so you can't be underrated if you're sponsored by Nike. But
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough question. I should have thought about that. I would have to go back and look. But yeah, okay. This is also from Tyler. How did you learn, or how you refine in your routine, and how does that change versus a college athlete? He's talking about diet, weights, sleep, and that sort of stuff. We kind of touched on it a little bit.
yeah. I mean, you just got to do whatever works for you.
Yeah. So it was self-imposed, your recovery schedule, or was it something that you got from the trainers at
Just
Georgia?
from the trainers. I mean, some of it was me, some of it was their train. I mean,
Has it changed since you turned pro, like with different physios and stuff around?
maybe the routine of what I'm doing has changed,
Mhm.
but the actual like, all right, mobility, like I'm doing mobility, but now there's different mobility,
got
like
you.
different type of stretches. I like maybe sometimes I'm not doing contrast baths like I was at Georgia, but now I'm doing like full like 6 minutes just in the ice, whatever. So I mean, the actual concept I feel like has stayed the same,
Okay.
but maybe the actual routine inside that concept has
It's
changed.
changed a bit.
The last question is from Ethan. How do you get through bad days or bad practices?
Gosh, I think it's changed over the last few years. When I was at college, I was like, all right, we got 3.5 hours of practice. Like tomorrow, I'm gonna have another 3.5 hour day of practice. So it was like, all right, I know I'm gonna have another day of practice. When I was growing up in juniors, there wasn't a lot of practice in Fresno, so I was just like every single minute I was on the court, I was like fully serious. I was fully engaged. Like I was making sure that every minute I was on the court counted. I think that's part of like when I became 16, I was doing all those things at like a very, I feel like, professional level, that I was able to make that jump. And then college, I felt like I probably could have been better in that aspect. I know Jamie kind of wanted me to be a little bit more of a leader in that aspect, where if I had a rough day, like I wasn't kind of throwing a tantrum. But sometimes, sometimes you're going to have a day, it's like, I failed an exam and now I'm at practice for 3.5 hours and it's cold outside. Like, so I think I probably could have done better there. But now it's like, I feel like I handle the bad days primarily because like Brian's able to really help me on those days. It's like he realizes the days where I'm like overthinking, like I'm in my head, and he's able to kind of call me out on it. And I feel like once I'm able to get called out, he's just holding me accountable. Okay. So it's one thing to be able to do it yourself. Like I'm able to get myself out of that funk sometimes, but having someone kind of not yell at you, but hold you accountable definitely makes it easier to get through those bad days. Cause it's like, all right, I got 3 minutes to just like get annoyed, and then Brian's able to hold me accountable right away. I'm back into this zone. Okay. So I think it's a strong part, is just having practice partners and a coach that's going to be able to hold you accountable.
You value that, like the coach being upfront and direct and that sort of stuff?
I think I thrive off of tough love, for sure. I mean, obviously there's time and place. I mean, if I'm getting yelled at, I feel like sometimes I shut down a little bit. Like I'm just like not as responsive. I'm kind of like, oh, this is bullshit. Like, sorry, I don't know if I can cuss, but I was just like,
let it rip.
I was like, this is bullshit. Like I don't want to listen. I don't want to listen. I don't want to just hear what you guys are saying. Like I just shut down. And so when it's in at least I was like, hey, like I know you're struggling, but like you have to do this better. Like you have to do this better. I feel like that's like they understand what I'm going through. And then they're able to make the adjustments and the corrections. Then I'm able to kind of get back into this, like, all right, like I understand, like you're helping me out, rather than just kind of just pushing me down. Like I need a little bit of like, all right, I'm trying to bring you back up.
How was it getting adjusted to Brian in that sense? Like, is that conversations you guys had to have, and you had to be like, look, I prefer this, like approach it this way than this way? Both ways,
absolutely. It's been certainly an ongoing conversation. I remember in a Fairfield, I was playing a match, and at this point I was struggling again before. Like I don't know what was going on. But after I hit a forehand winner, like just absolutely roped one, Brian would give me like this face, and it was like a good, like it was just a face. And then when I miss an easy shot, it was the exact same face. Like, so I couldn't tell when it was like a good face or a bad face.
Okay.
And I was going to my towel, like I just missed an easy shot. It was like 5-all deuce, something like that. And I was going to my towel, and I look at him, he's giving me this face, and under my breath, I'm like, I hate that fucking face. And after the match, I'd lost the match. He's like, okay, I won't make that face anymore. So I think
I think you got the message.
he understood the message. I had no idea I said it out loud. I thought I said it like in my head, but apparently I like said it, and like Brian heard it, and he was a good bit away.
Brian heard it, the crowd.
Brian heard it, the crowd. Yeah, everyone must have
said
heard
it in my head, man screamed it.
Exactly. That must have been it, but it's just been like a continuous.
You got a warning for it.
Yeah, it's just been. I remember. Oh man, we joke about it now, but at the time, I think like Brian was pretty pissed that I was yelling, like not yelling at him, but I said that. But now it's like a joke, and there's like certain things like that where it's just an ongoing conversation of just like, all right, I feel like I do better when we talk about this, and so it's like kind of, yeah, it's just an ongoing.
Yeah, I have a lot of ratings for Brian. He's been very. Like, I met him, I don't even know. I met him maybe in Cleveland last year. It was the first time I met him because I was with Evan.
Yeah.
But the man has been very nice to me and, like, very respectful. And obviously invited me to hit with Kova, invited me to train with you and that sort of stuff. And it was not one of those situations where – because sometimes you go in someone's practice, and I came in prepared in both of those sessions to do whatever you wanted, you know. And both Kova and him, and like in your session too, they were like, "Is there anything you need to do? Do you want to do volleys, or do you want?" You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
So that was. I have a lot of respect for him, you know, for the way he's treated me and that sort of stuff. And I kind of complimented him too, like privately, and I just told him that he has a like good group of players, you know, like. I don't know. You and Kova too have no reason to be, you know, this nice to me and this cool and this sort of stuff. So I complimented him too. He has a good group of players to work with, you know. So it must be, the sessions must be good, you know, like must be fun to work with.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one thing that Brian's very adamant on is like people who show respect, like deserve respect, and so that can go to anything, like with a waiter or a waitress, and that's something I think he's kind of taught me is just like being respectful to everyone, because everyone deserves your respect until it kind of they lose that respect. And so I think I've definitely learned a lot about that just from him, and he's kind of just been ongoing with that, just making sure that I'm always treating people with respect, because I mean that's also something my parents like. It's just
you were respectful before.
Exactly. I mean I always was, but I think it's just a constant reminders always help, like rather than if you're having to do everything if just little reminders are always very helpful.
True. Any more questions, Justin?
Questions.
Did we skip anything? I think we covered everything pretty much.
What was it like in the team at University of Georgia? Like the vibe of the team? Because like some teams were like, when we're playing against Michigan, when I think he's at Florida now. I can't remember the coach's name right now, but but he was like, the team is like a very rowdy, like intense team. What was your experience at Georgia? Like, what was it like at team practice? Was it relaxed because kind of guys doing their own things, or was it very team? Rah,
you know,
rah?
it was weird because our team, we had 5 fifth years, so we had 5 guys that were kind of like been there, done that type of guys. So it was a little strange because a lot of them were like, I mean, if you take Blake Kreuter for example. He's the most laid-back human being that you'll ever meet on a tennis court. Like, he's chewing a piece of gum while he's playing a match, just, like, waxing guys, like, 2 and 2, like, whatever. Just so laid back. And so he'd kind of go about practice just, like, in his own way. And Trent was kind of the same way. It's like, he's like, oh, I want to do this and this. And then once I finish the things I want to do, like, it's like I don't really care about what that is. So it was a weird situation, the way, like, not situation, but the way practices went. Like, there'd be days where there was, like, unbelievable competition. Like, everyone was getting to do what they wanted to do. Everyone was engaged. And then there'd be some days where it was just like, oh, like, I don't really, like, I hit balls already this week. I don't need to hit them again. Like, just everyone had their own kind of vibe.
So you guys had input in the practice?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, like, and that's one thing that Jamie, like, really made sure of is just, like, asking guys, like, all right, what do you want to do in order to make yourself better? Like, that's the way he would phrase it. Like, what do you want to do in order to make yourself better? And so he kind of let us run our own practices amongst each other. Like we'd have one court, all right, I want to hit backhand cross. We'd go backhand cross. All right, I want to get some inside out feeds, like whatever. And the coaches were very willing to do that because our team was so experienced. Like even though I was a freshman, I think they treated me with that same like respect and that I'd kind of been there, done that, just on a different stage. But once we got into matches, it was like our team just kind of flipped this switch. Like everyone, you could kind of see it in everyone's eyes, like especially Trent. Okay. Trent was like this guy, like once he got into the matches, like he was just like so zoned in on what he was doing in his tennis. Like he was gonna dive on the court. He was gonna do whatever it took in order to win the match. And he just had this fire that like just would go throughout the entire team. Like you could see like guys on court 5 and 6. You could, once you heard Trent like give any sort of emotion, like you knew like, all right, this is like we're set. Like we're gonna win this match. And I think it was such a fun feeling getting to have that. I mean, especially when you're playing in front of 3,500 people. For sure. And you look down the courts and you see the rest of your team like willing to die for you. Yeah. It's like unbelievable.
Best crowd in college tennis, you think?
By far. I mean, there's nothing that compares to it. Like I'm like anyone could debate that with me. There's nothing.
Yeah, I played against Wayne, South African guy, Wayne Montgomery on court 2 there, NCAA second round. And first row, frat guys chirping me. Like they put on my Instagram, they found all kinds of about me. They were talking to me at every point. You look up, the stands are just like straight up, dog, full. Second round NCAA, full. Place is shaking. Like Georgia's the nicest place to play, I think, in college tennis. Like those top 3 courts are unreal.
The fact that NCAA isn't there every single year is
it's nice.
It's like tragic.
It used to be like that, right?
It used to be there. I want to say every year. I could be wrong.
Beautiful facility, dog.
Like it's just it's tragic for college tennis because the amount of fans that would come, even if it's not a Georgia tennis match, the amount of fans that would come would be crazy. Like if you go to like in Orlando when we were playing in the quarterfinals, there's maybe 200 people there. Like if we were playing Ohio State in Georgia, there would have been 6,000 people there. Yeah. Like everyone's going to that match. Like it's finals time. Everyone wants a break from finals, so they're gonna go and they're just gonna go chirp Cannon Kingsley at number 1, like whatever. Like everyone's just everyone's gonna just be so loud and obnoxious, and it's just gonna be so much fun. Like I don't understand why it's not there every single year.
It's funny how also like because we've had now a few different guys who've played college and stuff, and I feel like for the most part the experience has been similar in the sense that they were successful in college, so that their training was kind of catered to whatever they wanted to do. Not the whole training, but their specific training.
Majority, yeah.
But my training was not that way. Like in college, it was like you're going to do what this man says to do. No choice. Like
and I think that there's a lot of questioning on whether it's like, all right, do you go to college? Do you not go to college? If you want to become a pro tennis player, it's like, do you do it or do you not? And I think it's like exactly what you said. It really depends on the school. It's like there's the schools that are great are the ones that cater more to the players rather than the coaches having this ego that they're going to run this practice and the player's going to do exactly what he wants. It's like Manny and Jamie, they ran this practice that was catered more to what we wanted, but also let our own tennis identity show. Like there'd be days where I was like in the same court, Jamie would be feeding me inside out forehands, and then Blake would be getting to hit drop shots. Like the exact same, like feeding him to hit drop shots. Okay. And it's like, it's just, obviously me and Blake were all going on a different trajectory, but the fact that he was catering the practice to make the guys enjoy practice. I mean, you have to do that.
True. And you talked a lot about Jamie, but what's Manny's role? Obviously he's the head coach, but like, what is he doing day to day in the Georgia tennis?
I mean, Manny does a lot. I mean, Manny was more of the technical side of it, I think you'd say. At least when I was in my I fortunately I'd have both coaches on my court when I was doing my individuals. So like Jamie was on one side, Manny's on the other, so they're kind of giving both perspectives. Manny led a lot more on like the match days. Okay. He was very good at motivating the team. Like that's one thing I loved about him when I was going on my visit there, is he just had this swag.
Yeah, you can see him when
that all these other coaches just they didn't have that swag that Manny has. Yeah. Like he's just like laid back. He's just like always just
like he is college tennis kind of.
Exactly.
It's funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He just goes about things in this way. He's cool. Like
Yeah.
There's no other way to explain it other than like he's cool. Like he knows what he's doing on court. Like he has this weird, like he just understands what's going on in every single moment on college tennis. Like there wasn't a moment where I'd go on a changeover and he didn't know exactly what to say. I think maybe actually there might be only one time where he didn't know what to say, and that's when I asked him for a joke because I was like stressed out. It's like, Manny, do you got a joke? And he's just like, I don't got a joke. And he like ran over to our assistant, Will, and he's like, Will, you got a joke? And Will's like, I don't got a joke. And
That was the joke in itself.
Exactly.
That whole situation.
So I was laughing watching Manny hobble down the courts.
You knew what he was doing then too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, Manny handles a lot more of the match days type of stuff. I mean, obviously, I'm not there right now, so I couldn't tell you what he's doing. I mean, we have 6 freshmen at Georgia now, so it's obviously different than when I was there when we had 5 fifth years. I mean, there's just a different level of him having to be involved. But I mean, I'd say hands down one of the greatest college coaches of all time, if not the greatest.
For sure.
If you go back in time, you go to Georgia again. Knowing what you know now, you go to Georgia again.
100%. I mean, it's just there's nothing better than walking on the court one and seeing 4,000 people there to watch. It's just that you go to challengers and you don't have that. It's like there's this different level of just energy throughout the entire stadium. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Go Dogs.
Yeah, go Dogs.
All right, Ethan, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. Everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget, we have a deal with Pro Stringer if you want to get to Pro Stringer. Save $100 if you use our code Changeover in the shop. And also, we have some merch selling, some sweaters, hoodies, t-shirts, these kind of things. So the links are all below. So feel free to support. It goes towards editing. Ethan, good luck this season.
Appreciate it. You guys too.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.